Shit, holy shit, shit. Yo, aber.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Land Commander Gulf War III update for April 2nd, 2026. I know it's been a little while since I got my last video up. Between life and everything, I just didn't quite have time for it. So hopefully all of you were not, desperately without knowledge about what was going on, because I was a little absent. But we're gonna make up for it today with a good one. And today I actually want to start out with something a little different. Well, oh yeah, here we go. So it is Gulf War III, and that's what we're going to talk about mostly, but I want to start with some good news. Archimedes 2 launched successfully 2 days ago with 4 crew members. They're on a roughly 2-week mission to go circle the moon. This will be the first time humans have been back to the moon in any way since the 70s. And while they won't be landing on it, they will be going out behind the moon and going further from the Earth than any humans have ever gone before, and then hopefully return safely. So far the mission's been going great. I watched the launch, looked beautiful. They did a day in orbit around Earth to get settled, and now they're well on their way. So congratulations to NASA, congratulations everybody who worked on the spacecraft and getting the crew ready, congratulations to the crew, and congratulations to all of us. Even with this horrible war going on, space exploration is still amazing, and I really do think things like this are true food for the soul, if you will. So I'm very excited for them, and I really do look forward to them getting back, and more space exploration to come. So yeah, again, congratulations NASA and everybody involved. Okay, so we're gonna start out here with some other good news, or decent news. As I have mentioned in some past episodes, we have 2 carrier strike groups in theater at the moment. We have the Lincoln, which is down there in the Arabian Sea, conducting operations in support of this war. The USS Gerald R. Ford has been participating in this operation as well in the Red Sea. The Ford has been underway since June 24th of last year, I think. So they've been out almost 11 months. They were originally sent to the Mediterranean and the waters around Northern Europe. Then they were retasked to join operations in the Mediterranean, in the Caribbean against Venezuela. And then after that concluded, they were retasked back to the Red Sea to participate in operations against Iran. Then there was a horrible laundry fire incident that occurred. Hundreds of sailors were without places to sleep. So the Ford was sent to Soda Bay for repairs. And the whole time it looked more and more likely that the Ford was just going to be sent right back into the Red Sea to continue support of this war. I feel terribly for everyone involved, or everybody on board the Ford and its strike group. These are hardworking, committed men and women who have been out way longer than they were expecting to. It's hard on them, it's hard on their families, it's hard on the ships, it's hard on the airframes, it's hard on everybody and everything. And so we just found out that the other day the USS George H.W. Bush and its strike group have left Virginia and are in transit across, they're translanding, meaning transiting across the Atlantic to the Mediterranean and likely to the Red Sea, though they may stay in the Mediterranean and not enter the actual Red Sea. What that really means though is the Ford gets to come home soon. So I cannot tell you how excited I am for them. They've been out way too long. It is deeply unfair that we've done this to these people. It's very hard on these ships. It's going to cause all kinds of issues with maintenance and berthing availability for ships because the Ford is getting back so late. But it's coming home, and that's great. Though the fact that the Bush is translanding as we speak and will be taking up station where the Ford was and entering the Fifth Fleet and CENTCOM area responsibility does add further evidence to suggest that this war is nowhere near over, and it is only going to keep getting spicier. So anyway, congratulations to the Ford for being able to come home. Here's a wonderful picture of the USS Gerald Ford. For those of you who don't know, that is our newest carrier in the fleet. The Kennedy is going to be commissioned presumably next year, I believe, but this is our newest one. It's the lead ship in the Ford class. It's an incredibly capable, incredibly expensive, but incredibly capable vessel that has some amazing cutting-edge technologies in it, such as electromagnetic arresting and launching gear for the airframes, rather than using steam catapults to shoot jets off the front of a carrier. It uses an electromagnetic system, which means you don't need steam pipes everywhere. You have more control over how much thrust that launching system is going to put into the airframe, meaning you can dial in a wider range of speeds for different weighted aircraft, right? A different sized aircraft with different weights needs different amounts of help getting off the deck of the ship than others. So every aircraft has to have the catapult adjusted when it comes on and gets locked into the catapult. And the electromagnetic system allows us to have a much larger range of weights in aircraft, meaning we'll be able to launch things like smaller drones, all the way up to fully loaded F-35Cs and all of that. And then we use a magnetic system to catch the jets instead of using steam-driven weights and braking systems. It uses an electromagnetic system again. I could go on and on about the Ford. Anyway, there it is. It's looking great, and thank goodness it is coming home. So those are some of our good news stories today. Archimedes got off, is doing great. Ford is coming home. Long overdue. It sounds like the crew also got some R&R time while it was in port getting maintained, so that's wonderful to hear. And the Bush is coming to relieve them. So those are the good stories. Now let's get into some of the more meat and potatoes of Gulf War III. We're gonna start here. This is some bad news. It just came out pretty recently. It doesn't sound like an F-15E Strike Eagle was lost over Iranian airspace yesterday. There's a very good chance it was shot down, but that has not been confirmed, so we're waiting to find out what really happened. But the bigger part of it is both crew members, the pilot and the backseater, did eject successfully, make it to the ground, but nobody has been able to find them yet. Iran has, of course, kicked into overdrive to try to find these guys. Obviously, what a PR coup and strategic coup it would be to capture these guys alive and have them as prisoners. Echoes of the Iran embassy hostage back in the late 70s and early 80s. The Iranians have announced that there are cash rewards for anybody who turns these guys in. I've been watching video of civilians going out in the mountains looking for these guys. I cannot imagine how terrified these two guys are, and I really, really, really hope we find them soon. And I've also been watching footage of the US military going in to find these guys. There are a lot of really brave men and women right now who are flying helicopters and attack jets incredibly low to the ground, in broad daylight, looking for these guys. And whatever you might think about this war, whatever you might think about the military, these are hardworking, brave people who deserve to come home and not become prisoners. And I really, really hope we find them, and I really hope we don't lose any of our brave search and rescue guys looking for them. So, truly Godspeed to those guys, really. And it's a reminder that despite it being Groundhog Day every day at the Pentagon, every day that SecDef Hegseth gets up there, despite it being Groundhog Day, anytime Trump talks, including that speech he gave the other day about how the Iranians have been destroyed, everything's gone, the Navy's gone, the launchers are gone, it's over for them. Despite those claims every day, they are false. Iran maintains a large stockpile of weaponry and the means to employ it. Its C2 ISR capabilities, personnel, assets, systems continue to reconstitute and regenerate and adapt. And they continue to exercise varying degrees of control over their airspace, including the ability to threaten a high-performance US F-15, which, if this is true, if this was taking down the Iranians, this will be the first time an F-15 has been lost to enemy fire in its history since it came. I believe the F-15 entered production in the 70s, and it's had an incredible air-to-air combat kill ratio of 0 losses to not quite 200 kills, I believe. The point is, despite all of these proclamations about being laser focused, about us taking out everything, about every ship being on the bottom of the ocean, every rocket launcher blowed up, every leader of Iran being exploded by munitions and all this stuff, clearly that is not squaring with the reality on the ground. So, and I also want to just say right now that here we are, April 3rd, over a month into this, and guess what? The Iranians still control the Strait of Hormuz, or have effective control over it. It is still a checkpoint. It is a toll booth. That's the term I'm hearing a lot. It's a good way to put it, because the Iranians continue to solidify and formalize rules and procedures for ships to transit through their territorial waters and enter and exit the Gulf. They continue to receive payments to do so. And while we're not talking tons of ships yet, it is still going on. So the Iranians still control the strait. The Iranians also still possess plenty of capability to hit back. Again, despite all of the proclamations and all of the groundhog daying. This is a great graph, and I know you can't see it the best, but on the right-hand side there, or I guess from the right-hand side, you can see there's the strait. Always want to show, reiterate just how, or use these images to reiterate how narrow the strait is, how easy it is to exercise degrees of control over it from the shore and things like that, because it's very narrow. There's not a lot of maneuvering room. There are a variety of nations that have territory there, both on land and out into the water. And then on the other side, you can see a graph, and basically look at all that shipping that's cruising along. I mean, you had an average of 129 ships a day prior to the war kicking off, and now we're down to an average of 6 a day. So when I say the Iranians control the strait, I don't want you to get the impression that, dozens and dozens of Iranian or tankers that have paid off Iran are flowing. It's a small number, but it is still ships that Iran is choosing to let through. They are not transiting through under established international norms and rules about the open, free, fair use and free transit of the world's oceans and international waters. They are being let through when Iran says they can be. And every day that this goes on, Iran becomes emboldened, Iran becomes stronger, and the U.S. strategic position on the global stage becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. Because at the end of the day, the whole concept, as I've said a few times now, of being able to get on a ship or put cargo on a ship and have it move around the world's oceans without having to pay tolls, with being able to do so without permission, being able just to sail the world's oceans freely, without being encumbered by other people and other nations, unless you're in their territorial waters, of course. All of that is underpinned by the United States and its Navy. And so we have put that whole system on the line with this clusterfuck. And we are no closer, as far as I can tell, to this being resolved. And no matter how much Trump wants to talk about there being negotiations going on and all of this stuff, I don't think that a negotiated settlement is coming anytime soon. One of the reasons I've also said many times is we have 3 belligerents, one of whom, Israel, is not really on the same page as its ally, the United States. And for this to work, all 3 belligerents have to get together and get on the same page to some degree, or this is just going to keep going. So, the 82nd Airborne, elements of them are in theater. We have flowed a bunch of additional air and ISR assets into theater, as I've talked about. A lot of munitions have been flowed into theater. The Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group and its 2,500 Marines and air assets are on station in the 5th Fleet AOR. So there's a lot of forces there that we've brought in. And I also want to add that, there's all this talk about, Trump's always like, oh, NATO, he's all pissed off at NATO and trying to get him to come deal with this and that. And obviously they're not just rushing down there to start kicking Iranian ass with us. I do want to note, though, that in a much more quiet way, the Europeans, the Australians, and others have been helping with this effort. The Australians have deployed some ISR assets to a base that they used during the operations against ISIS in the Middle East that they've been operating out of. In fact, it was struck about a week ago, I believe, by the Iranians. No one died, but there was some damage to Australian equipment and facilities. I know the British are running ISR and anti-drone and anti-missile interception operations around the Gulf. And the French Carrier Strike Group, centered around the Charles de Gaulle aircraft carrier, is conducting similar sorts of defensive and ISR operations in and around the Persian Gulf, the Arabian Sea, and the broader Middle East. So while this is not exactly, sending warships through the strait to challenge it and to kinetically drive the Iranians back, it does show that whatever everybody's saying publicly and what everybody might be saying to each other in these meetings, everybody wants this strait back open, and even those who are hesitant and pissed off that we did this, like some of our European allies, even they are slowly getting pulled into this. And the longer this goes on, I think the more and more that you're gonna see. If this goes on another month or whatever, you will at some point start to see other allied to the United States powers enter this and get more and more and more and more kinetic. And I think there's also a very good chance that you're gonna see that happen with some of the Gulf states as well. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, all of them may become more and are likely to become more kinetically engaged in this. Because at the end of the day, the GCC nations need this oil to start flowing, right? This is their lifeblood. This is how they pay for everything. Despite all these efforts to diversify and find other ways to make money, it's still basically a hydrocarbon economy over there. And so every day that money isn't coming in by moving oil is another day that a fiscal crisis gets that much closer. Not to mention the issues all over the world, right? As I've talked about, the Philippines is well under 40 days of fuel. Australia is facing fuel shortages. There's liquefied natural gas shortages coming very soon in particularly places like Japan and other nations. The fertilizer crisis that's underway. 30% of the world's fertilizer is sitting on ships in the Gulf. So what does that mean? 8 to 12 months out, we're gonna see a food shock, right? Because farmers are trying to plant now, they can't get fertilizer. They're also getting doubly fucked by the high fuel prices. All of that is to say the pressure continues to be high to get this strait open. The pressure in the United States to do so is high, and the pressure for other nations to become involved kinetically is growing every day. There's also, though, the other side of that where there is pressure to cut deals with Iran, because at the end of the day, a lot of these countries probably don't fucking care who controls the strait. They just want the oil to flow. And if the United States can't do it and they can figure out a way to work with Iran, the longer this goes on, the more that's going to be the case. And the more ships, companies, nations that do that enter into these arrangements with Iran, the more codified that becomes, the more normal that becomes, and the harder to dislodge that and reimpose the United States' hegemony on the region and on the broader maritime environment, the harder that will become. Every day, the clock is ticking. And so, I just don't see an end to this anytime soon, and I do think we are going to see ground troops involved. I do maintain they are probably not going into Iran proper. I do not think they're going to Karg Island. I do think we're going to see them, though, deployed, as I've said again and again, to these smaller islands up in the strait along Allied coastlines to project sea and air control over the areas, to act as eyes and ears in the area, to provide presence, and to be a reassuring force to mariners transiting through, to let them know that the Marines and other assets are right there, and if they need help, they will be there to help. So that's really where I think this is going. But I just want to reiterate, Iran is still in control of the strait. So, Trump and Hex's Groundhog Day thing, if everything's exploded up, we've done everything, we're winning, it's over for Iran, it doesn't jive with the facts. And I've said it before, I'm gonna say it again. The Iranian regime is gonna emerge from this stronger, more cohesive, and likely more fundamentalist than they were before this war started. And the more and more of this elite degradation we're doing, killing those in charge, the more likely that is to happen, because there'll be fewer people in those elite positions to fight with each other, less competition, less friction, more likely for cohesion. And of course, these are the people who are good and have proven to be very good at adapting under fire, right? I also want to add something else I thought was interesting. There are intelligence reports that are coming out or being leaked that from the United States that say that even though we've been doing this and we've launched over 10,000 sorties and we've struck well over 10,000 targets in Iran, something like only half of Iran's military hardware has been destroyed or taken out of the fight. So that means despite all of this work, all of these munitions, all of these lives disrupted and lost, all of this equipment put into the field, all of these explosions we've done, all of these assurances from PD Boy Hegseth that everything's been blown up and we're razor focused on blowing it all up, half of their stuff still supposedly remains. And I totally believe that. I absolutely believe that. I believe that because we continue to see strikes coming out of Iran on targets throughout the region. It also just jives with how you would imagine Iran would do this. You know, Iran has been getting ready for this since 2003, and their whole plan has always centered on decentralizing their command and control structure, strewing mass caches and stores of weaponry and munitions and ammunitions and other supplies all throughout the nation, and being prepared to fight a decentralized, asymmetric war against the United States and its allies, playing to Iran's decentralized asymmetric strengths while maximizing the effect against the United States' weaknesses. And so yeah, when I hear that half the weapons are still around, that just makes total sense. That just makes total sense. It's also a good reminder that we are addicted to operational and tactical success. You watch a bunch of explosions in the infrared camera from the jets and it looks like we're doing something. And we're blowing something up. But if those explosions are not, again, being done within the context and thus leading to some predetermined strategic goal, then who cares? Who cares? And this is I think this is another great example of that. Sorry you can't really see these the best. We are working on this. This is gonna get better, all of this imagery I'm doing. I've got something I'm gonna set up soon that's gonna make this way slicker. So just bear with me a little bit longer. But really what these are showing is that, you know, in the last 24 hours, there have been strikes in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and all throughout Israel by Iran and its proxies, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Iran proper. The Houthis are continuing to fight. They are attacking Israel, though they have held off attacking Red Sea shipping for now. I think they are holding off on that until they feel the United States has really begun the kinetic operation to get the strait back open, and that's when they will start to play that card. And you can also see here on the other side, there's two graphs showing Iranic ballistic missile strikes against Kuwait and against Bahrain. And what I want to point out is, yes, on the far left, February 28th, you see the most strikes, right? Against Kuwait, you've got 376, and then it falls precipitously. Okay, that's fine, that's true. But strikes are still occurring. And I want to emphasize, it's not the rate of fire that's key in these graphs. What's important is that the Iranians are still shooting stuff at targets throughout the region. Their allies are doing so. And what's most important is that they are hitting targets with a high degree of precision, and that the targets they're hitting are having noticeable, tangible effects on the broader battle space and the strategic environment of the situation. All of that means that, yeah, we've degraded their ability, but they're still a potent threat. And if they don't have to fire that many missiles every day to keep the strait shut down, to keep everybody afraid, to keep insurance rates on shipping very high. And if they're able to hit things with precision, even more so. And in fact, just, 2 days ago, a tanker was hit by an Iranian drone and caught on fire. It didn't sink and the crew's okay. Another tanker was almost hit by 2 missiles that struck, I think, within 100 meters of it out in the Gulf. So those are pretty good shots, right? I mean, yeah, I didn't hit the second tanker, but very close and enough to keep everybody super freaked out. And the other one was definitely hit and lit on fire. So yeah, I just want to emphasize that, you know, all of this bombing and all these blowing uppings we're doing, the Iranians are still very much in the fight. And they have shown that you do not need to shoot the maximum number of weapons every day. You need to shoot the right amount to cause enough chaos, fear, confusion on the battlefield to keep your enemy off balance and to keep the initiative on your side. And the Iranians are definitely doing that, I would argue. This is Hezbollah attacks into Iran. You can see the Hezbollah is not giving up in any way, shape, or form. And I will add, the Israelis are not either. The ground invasion continues. They continue to make slow but steady gains, marching their way up to the Litani, supporting my belief that they are going to attempt to create a full-on Israeli-occupied, long-term occupied buffer zone all the way up to the Litani, which will probably involve the movement of settlers into the region, especially since they've been doing a good job of clearing the area out of people, just making it abandoned space. But yeah, Hezbollah is hitting back hard. They're firing throughout Israel, and the back and forth continues. Israeli long-range fires and airstrikes throughout Lebanon continue. Again, well over 1 million people displaced. Hundreds of thousands are huddled outside of Beirut. Food is running out. Medical supplies are running out. It's a humanitarian disaster, absolutely. The Israelis are coming under constant daily attack by Hezbollah in particular. So, and I don't think that that's gonna stop anytime soon. I mean, Hezbollah was founded and has continued to exist for decades solely to fight the Israelis. And despite all that effort the Israelis went to decapitate them back in 2024, they are clearly not out of the fight. So, yeah, the spiciness continues throughout the region. Escalation on all sides continues. Everybody's escalating, moving up that escalation ladder. And I do think the Iranians still have the most maneuver room on that escalation ladder for the time being, which puts the initiative in their court. Okay, let's see. This is showing sort of broader strikes throughout the region, and I also want to emphasize, I've talked about how things are escalating. Well, one of the things that we're seeing more and more of is civilian/critical infrastructure and facilities in Iran being openly hit and targeted. The Israelis have been doing some of that, but it's getting even more so. You can see a picture there of a pharmaceutical factory in Iran that the Israelis blew up yesterday. There were 2 of them that were blown up. The US also blew up a major bridge yesterday, which is something we have not been doing thus far. But all of this shows a steady, continued increase in the escalation and what we're willing to do. I'd also like to add something kind of interesting in the side. The Israelis have been striking ports up in the Black Sea because the Russians have been sending, among other things, drones that they've been manufacturing in Russia through the Black Sea to the Iranians. And they are drones that were originally sold to Russia by Iran, and now the Russians have made them better and are mass producing them for their war in Ukraine, and have so many of them they can now ship them back to Iran to use against us. On the subject of hitting critical infrastructure, Trump in his speech once again talked about, if the strait doesn't get back open, we're going to hit every power plant in Iran and just devastate it. I have a feeling that that's not what's exactly going to happen, that everything's going to hit at once, but it does seem that we are really locked into this escalation ladder path, meaning that we are going to start hitting more and more of those kinds of targets. I am certain we will see more bridges hit. We will see more things like pharmaceutical factories hit, both by the Israelis. They'll probably take the lead as they have thus far on those kinds of targets, but we will be doing it more and more. And I would not be surprised if these two pilots, pilots who were in that F-15, if they're not found by U.S. forces, or if they are captured by the Iranians, or if they're captured and killed by the Iranians, I think that the U.S. inclination to really start blowing up a lot of stuff, a lot of critical infrastructure, bridges, dams, treatment plants, things like that, is gonna really go through the roof. I don't think we're gonna handle it well if we don't find these guys. The other side of that, though, is at some point, if we go down that road, the Iranians have the ability to hit all kinds of critical infrastructure throughout the Gulf. We'll come back to that one in just a second. Oh boy. Anyway, I'll just leave it up for now. Whoops. The Iranians have already been hitting things, all kinds of critical infrastructure, oil refineries, aluminum plants. Oh yeah, back to critical infrastructure in Iran. You know, as I mentioned the other day, the Israelis hit some steel plants in Iran. So we've been seeing more and more and more reports and more verified reports of critical civilian or dual use infrastructure, like steel plants, like pharmaceutical plants being hit throughout Iran. The Iranians are hitting back sort of tit for tat. You know, the steel factories got hit, so they hit aluminum plants. And there's still plenty that the Iranians can go after. And if we push them too far up this escalation ladder, what they're gonna do is they're gonna start hitting the desalination plants in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Bahrain and the UAE and all of that. They're gonna start really going after the refineries. They're gonna turn the Houthis loose and have them destroy the oil terminal out in the Red Sea. They're gonna have them start targeting shipping in the Red Sea. I mean, we go too far and we're gonna cripple the entire Gulf region for a very, very, very long time, right? If this goes too far and there's too much infrastructure destroyed and there are true water crises emerging and true, massive humanitarian crisis because there's no more electricity or very little in these countries, and medical systems are collapsing and they're running out of money because they're not bringing money in, that's not something you can fix very quickly. Even if the society holds together, as I've said again and again, all the parts and all the equipment we're gonna need to fix all this stuff that's getting blown up. It's not like you just go down to Walmart and get a jumbo-sized box of percolator tanks for oil refineries or whatever. These are very expensive, very complicated, very specialized piece of machinery and equipment, and the people to install them are there's not just an infinite number of them. So the demand to get these parts and get this equipment and get these people there to fix it is going to be super high. There's only so many of them, and the more demand goes up, the longer all this is going to take to fix. Now, I want to kind of come back to this, the loss of the E-3 Sentry last week. We talked about how the E-3 Sentry had been on the ground at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, and it, along with a number of KC-135s refuelers, were struck while on the ground. The KC-135s have not been revealed to have been destroyed, but have definitely been damaged. But the E-3 was definitely struck and destroyed. And why I want to emphasize this is this goes back, I think these pictures help really show that the Iranians not only have reconstituted and still maintain robust organic ISR capabilities, but that they are absolutely receiving external ISR, real-time targeting information and data from Russia and China. So if you look at the in-flight E-3, you see the big radar dome up there on the top. That's what allows it to sit up in the air and then have this vast, huge eye of the battle space, from the surface all the way up, to space, allowing them to see and create a picture of the battle space that's fairly complete and thus conduct the air war, because they can see everything. Then you look at the picture of the plane all blown up on the ground, right? And what do you notice? The damage is right where that dish was. That suggests that the Iranians had incredibly good information about where that plane was at the time, where on the ground it was, so that they could put whatever the munition was right into that radar dome and make sure they crippled that aircraft. Very interesting, very interesting. And in fact, this whole thing of the Chinese and Russians giving the Iranians that kind of level of detailed, real-time, actionable intelligence is exactly the kind of thing we've been doing for the Ukrainians in their war with Russia since 2023. And while, external, big external actors supporting and aiding proxies in wars against their adversaries is nothing new. What is new since the kickoff of the Russo-Ukrainian war is the ability for an external power to provide that kind of real-time intelligence to a proxy and affect outcomes on the battlefield in such a real-time way. That is totally new. That has never existed before. I mean, think about here's a good one. Think about Afghanistan in the 80s. Soviets had invaded. Ronald Reagan was gonna make sure that evil empire paid for that. So the CIA, began flowing weapons and other equipment into Afghanistan and arming insurgents there to fight the Soviets. And of course, the most classic one of that being the Stinger missile, the shoulder-fired anti-aircraft weapon that the Afghanis used to great success to shoot down Russian Hind attack helicopters. And that was a very successful operation. We were able to, pretty much on the cheap, provide the Afghanis the means to do an incredible amount of damage to the Soviet bear. But what we were not really doing was giving them real-time information. Mostly the Afghanis were figuring it out on their own. How, what the Soviets were up to, where they were doing things, when to attack. There was some information being fed to them by us, but mostly what they were using was their own organically derived information and understanding of the battle space. Today, we are in a period where an external actor can use their highly developed, highly advanced ISR assets and their ability to analyze and disseminate that information to affect outcomes in a battle space against their adversary in real time. This has never happened before. We're doing it to the Russians. Now the Russians and Chinese are doing it to us in Iran. What all that will mean for the long run, I'm not totally sure, but I think it's very interesting, and I think it's something that maybe has been overlooked by a lot of people who are talking about this war, that this is a pretty new thing that's happening. And we can see right there, look at that amazing level of precision, just boom, right into that radar dome. As I said in another video, some of these attacks we're hearing about on hotels and things like that, I have a suspicion that they are not as random as they seem, that the Iranians have intelligence that they have derived or have been given to them by the Chinese and Russians that, Hotel X has, Air Force personnel operating out of it, because we've dispersed most of our personnel from our big bases out into, buildings throughout the region, hotels, office spaces, etc. So I think a lot of these targeting of hotels and stuff that you're hearing about, I think they're more intentional and almost could be considered more of an actual military target in that case than it might appear on the surface. Anyway, just keep this in mind. We live in a world now where adversaries can provide others the means to, in real time, inflict pretty substantial damage on an opponent. And yeah, I guess that's about it for today. Just to kind of recap here on the Gulf War III update, it continues to be Groundhog Day at the Pentagon and at the White House. Trump has told us he's got another 2 to 3 weeks of war left in him. I think that that's not anywhere near what we're looking at. I think we're looking at a lot longer. And I think that we are far from the end of the escalation ladder. I think this is only going to get crazier. I think this is only going to get more bloody. And I think that every day the clock ticks, the pressure and the damage to the United States for not retaining control of the strait just goes up, 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 up. Congratulations to the crew of the Archimedes, and above all else, and congratulations to the Ford and its crew for an incredible job these last 11 months. I cannot wait till you're back in home port. And while I will not be there, just know that I will be smiling when I know you've pulled in. And to those 2 pilots, those 2 crew members who are down in Iran, I so hope we find you. I hope we find you soon, and I hope we do not lose anybody else looking for you. And I will always be in awe of watching those guys go into harm's way to look for their comrades. So, yeah, Gulf War III is about as spicy as it can get, guys. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this. I know I have. Hopefully I'll have a little bit better cadence on the videos moving forward. Hopefully next week we're gonna have a little bit better video imagery thing going on behind me. So just bear with me on that. Feedback's always welcome. And as always, reach for the lasers and embrace those lights, y'all. All right, see you next time. Whoops.